segue then to our nonprofit leader is that one of the highlights of each time the cross-sector leaders came together was that we did a service learning opportunity together. So we actually got to give back to the community. And one of our favorite places that we all continue to talk about was the DC Central Kitchen. And it was founded by this amazing man who has a talent for, or I guess it would be a passion, for identifying undiscovered talent. And that started with music. There's a long history behind that, but I saw that was an interesting thread in which he actually discovered the people who were asking and needing food and shelter and resources to get up and revamping their lives were actually the people that could deliver those services themselves. And so he founded these nonprofits in order to say, hey, let's make you a part of the solution. And so he discovered that talent and found a way to get them engaged. And then each time he ran into a new challenge or pushback on that effort, he once again turned and pivoted and found a new way to solve that problem with limited resources, but with the mindset of together we can make this happen. So he wrote a great book on it. Robert Egger, he's actually now in L.A., so he's transitioned D.C. and now has built it here in L.A., so we're excited to have him in our own backyard. He wrote a book, Begging for Change, in order to talk about how we need to look at the nonprofit sector differently. And so I'm thrilled to introduce you, and thank you again for being a part of the program and leading us into the future.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I hope I represent the badass grandparent factor. Yeah, exactly, in this grandparent shit. I don't know about that. But hey, man, I'm going to both, it's an honor to be here, quite honest. My first time on campus, seeing lots of people I know, Karen, who I've admired from a distance. But I'm going to tell you both a cautionary tale of unrequited cross-sector love, and then hopefully give you 3 good, interesting examples of what you can do that I hope will leave you not necessarily, I would prefer to avoid questions and leave you gasping for intellectual air at the end of my presentation. So here we go. Thank you for that kind introduction. I am a pro. I've made payroll for 30 years without fail, right? And I came here because I had spent 25 years in Washington, D.C. By the way, I left D.C. almost 6 years ago. I haven't seen this many jackets and ties since I left D.C. But I came out here because I had a call-in to come back to the community where I was raised. I grew up in Southern California. At that era, for those of you old enough to remember, where skateboards had metal wheels, and the smallest pebble could overturn your skateboard. And that metaphor will come in handy in a couple of minutes. But I came here because I love kind of unrecognized assets, and I hate traditional barriers. And I thought Los Angeles, not only being the place that I longed to return after 40 years in the metaphorical wilderness of Washington, D.C., but a place that was ripe with amazing opportunities. Now, I come to any community almost like a chef would into your home, which I know causes many people great terror. Chefs coming into our house, we have nothing to cook. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But a great chef can come in and look at the most threadbare larder and within 20 minutes present you with a meal you did not know you have. I am a social chef. I can come into communities and show you the rich larder that you often don't realize you have. So I came here saying, L.A. has tremendous things that they view as part of the problem. An older generation. And one of the main reasons I came here, and one of the points I would like to leave each of you pondering, is we are about to encounter one of the greatest social issues of the next 25 years, one that will challenge us economically to every small town, every big city, but also test us as a people, and that is how we will act when 70 million baby boomers begin to get old and outlive their savings. And this is business 101. But I came here because LA has one of the largest concentrations of older people in America. I came here because I'm fascinated by the idea of training younger men and women aging out of the foster care system who are statistically, not to paint with a broad brush, but statistically on the way to a tough journey. Older men and women coming home from incarceration. I might add, being let out of prison so that the nonprofit system has to deal with their healthcare costs and aging, not the prison system, but they're coming out. And too many of them will have no choice but to become recidivists and go back, statistically. So again, I want to use that. Wasted food. You know, every day in America we throw away over half of the food we produce. The majority of that is imperfect fruits and vegetables, and California represents the very Niagara Falls of amazing food that represents both lost water, methane gas, and a variety of other issues from the environmental side. So I came here saying, what an opportunity, because LA City has contracts to do senior meals, and I had done and led an organization that had developed a locally sourced scratch-cooked meal program for DC public schools, and it helped almost 7,000 kids on a daily basis to this day get a healthy meal in their schools. Made by men and women who were felons, served by men and women with less colorful backgrounds, but everybody getting $13.25 an hour to start with full benefits and retirement, as well as being part of a mission. So I came here saying, what an amazing opportunity. I'm going to create a most elegant model in which I will have a social enterprise for-profit that will come out and compete, and the only real competitor for these contracts with a multinational caterer. No bad. I have no Jones against business, but their model is processed food, made at low wages, served on styrofoam, and at the end of the day, profit is exported from LA and never comes back. I was coming in saying my model is I'll buy local. I'll keep people out of jail and pay a great wage and benefits. Not only that, I only want to do senior meals because that's what I'm focused on, because it's essential in our country that we completely re-examine the entire senior construct, starting at meals, but also the adult daycare center in which our senior centers are based. LA being one of the largest opportunities in America and one of the perfect cities because it's a city that's promoted the false beauty construct for so many decades. What better place to upset the apple cart, the false construct of beauty, than the very place that perpetuates it. But I'll keep people out of jail, and profit will never leave town. The way the mayor of Los Angeles, Stockton, Fresno, Bakersfield, those are the magic words of the future. Keep profit local. That was my model. So imagine the frustration I felt and still feel when I ran into the lethargy of city government. You know, everybody said, and in fact, cautionary point, when I came into Los Angeles armed with not only a background, but census data, saying LA is one of the largest concentration of older people in America, to a person in philanthropy, in city government, what I heard to a person, I didn't realize that. And it was like, hey, that was my first real wake-up call. It's like, how can you not realize this? This is census data 101. This is basically, we've been hearing about the boomers for our entire lifetime. How can there not be a plan? Well, I'm glad I'm here because this is the perfect spot. I co-located and helped develop the country's largest kitchen incubator space, LA Prep, 50 kitchens. I chose that because I know every mayor in America wanted to see what a kitchen incubator space looked like. They all want one. They don't know what it does, they just know they want one. And the reality is they'd come by, and if I could expose them, not just to the power of a social enterprise that took city contracts and did all this stuff, but if I could expose them not only to the issue of aging, but if I could show them a way that you can actually keep people active and engaged. One of the biggest issues we have in aging is keeping an older generation living as independently as long as possible, as productive. And productivity, when divorced from the concept of I go to work, get a check, pay taxes, and spend it, it's volunteering. So the reality is Karen, who has been somebody I've wanted to meet forever, when Governor Schwarzenegger appointed that office, I thought that was one of the most radical, forward-thinking things any governor had ever done. Up until that time, only the equal was Mayor Hickenlooper's Office of Strategic Partnerships that was peopled by 4 women. And they were able to bring $40 million into Denver from outside merely by helping nonprofits find common ground, apply for grants, and manage grants. $50 million, 4 people. So I looked at those 2 examples and started to say, wouldn't it be amazing to work and live in a town, to vote in a town, with visionary leadership that understood the economic role that nonprofits play as the 3rd biggest employer in America. Nonprofits bring $50 billion a year, 40, I don't want to exaggerate, $40 billion a year into California from outside California. If I'm a governor, if I'm a mayor, I realize that nonprofits are the 5th ace in the deck I didn't know was there. What a potential opportunity. So anyway, I landed here, but found hostility to change. Now again, we all know in our business, enlightened self-interest is the hardest pitch to make in America. When I was a kid, I watched Jesse Jackson beat his head against the wall saying, Head Start costs this much, prison costs this much. It's the hardest pitch, but in my opinion, this aging globally, aging in America, and climate change are 2 of the most profound social economic issues that we have an opportunity to do something about. But then when I got past getting people to see the issue of aging, what I ran into, and John Clavara, who's not here yet but will speak this afternoon, is the rare example. Philanthropic leaders or corporate philanthropic leaders that didn't focus on childhood issues exclusively, but saw the broad spectrum of need. So what you had is everywhere I went, we don't fund seniors. And it's like, how can you not? You know, this again is one of the most powerful issues, and I'm sorry to break the news, but you're gonna, whether you like it or not. Every single person in the nonprofit sector, every single city, this is so imperative. But long story short, I ran into the one small pebble. And quite honestly, the political lack of will to confront that small bureaucratic pebble that in effect said, we don't want your model here. We like the current vendor. And whether that's because of rebates, and any of you all who are in corporate food service know the power of rebates, which are a nice way of saying under the table money to keep small budgets in Department of Aging or schools going based on Coke machines in schools, or a variety of other incentives that social enterprises like mine don't understand, because our model is good old-fashioned business, but social return on investments. How many people didn't go back to prison? How many volunteers were engaged, and not just engaged in slaps work, painting the walls of shelters for the 58th time, but profound ways in which young people are empowered to see the role of their life, whether it's just a few years left or an entire span can play. You know, one of the errors we face when it comes to nonprofits is, I did not go to college, but thanks to the power of the commencement address, you're looking at Dr. Egger. God bless America. But, literally to a school, you know what we say to a graduation? 100 million strong, the most diverse generation in the history of America, the most culturally, technologically advanced generation, but to a person raised doing service. Probably one of the great social experiments in the history of the world. 100 million young people have been raised doing service. Yet on graduation day, you know what we say? Congratulations, choose. Do you want to make money, or do you want to do good? Do you want to be a .com, or do you want to be a .org? And that is probably doing more to strangle our economic cross-sector future than anything else, telling young people they have to choose between integrity and a paycheck. You know, the idea that they can't pursue their heart. We've told them that caring about your community is a sucker's bet. Go make that money. Follow the Carnegie model, which you still hear. Make a bunch of money, then give it back. Not carrying the economic wreckage you left making a bunch of money, and the small amount of money you get back trying to undo the damage you did making all that money. We still apply the wrong construct, but so much, in my opinion, derives from the fact that we still view the nonprofit sector as lesser than. You know, sisters, this is a Me Too moment. Because nonprofits, 7 out of 10 are run by women, and an entire sector was founded by women. We are the third biggest employer in America. We channel $300 billion in annual revenue, 70 million volunteers. We have $3 trillion in assets and 70 million volunteers. Yet we have been told we don't know how to compete in business. The reality is, and I want you to let this really sink in, there is no profits without nonprofits. That is an economic fact. Without Pepperdine and education, without communities of faith, without health care, without clean air and water, what town can attract new business, new voters? None. The reality is no society functions without both for-profit and nonprofits. We are equal in the future of America. But when was the last time you heard a mayor, a governor, or a presidential candidate detail their economic plan and the role the nonprofit sector will play in creating jobs, attracting investment dollars, engaging our young, keeping our elders active and productive? When was the last time? You haven't. Because still, we are put in this box. We are the feminized part of the American economy. And to a certain extent, the .com world, which is the masculine side of the American economy, it is viewed as the driver of the economy while we do good deeds. And we have come to the point where really what we need to do is elect a generation of people who show up on the day one understanding that their town thrives and their economic future is dependent upon a vibrant, dynamic nonprofit sector. If any of you all fly home, I urge you to look in the back of your US Air, whatever you fly, and there'll be a magazine. And there's a high degree of likelihood a town has taken out an ad. It'll be Charlotte, it'll be Atlanta, it'll be Fresno, but everyone will talk about why you should move there and relocate your business. And if you really look hard, and I urge you to, at the end of it, they'll put a list of all the different things they cited. On average, 60% have .org following. What those ads are saying is you can come to our town, you can make money, you can thrive because we have a dynamic nonprofit sector. So I'm going to leave you with 3 ideas I want you to ponder. I don't know what time it is. Good, I'm right about on time. First, the number 1 policy I urge you to consider is the doing away with the horror of low bid. Every contract in every city, and food in particular, comes with the lowest bid. Low bid is where you get bad food, bad wages, exported profit, and the need for charity. Because I guarantee you, whatever sucker town gets Jeff Bezos to come in, you better fund that food bank. Because not unlike Walmart, they're going to be going to that food bank for the food they will not get through their wages. But low bid. You know, what I did when I got here, besides being attracted by the Good Food Purchasing Act, a city policy that I might add the Department of Aging has never been in compliance with, that mandates that city agencies that spend more than $10,000 a year on food buy local. What a powerful policy. That's what brought me to LA. And it was forwarded by a collective of nonprofits called the LA Good Food, the LA Food Policy Council, which is now being replicated around the country. So again, the county, to their credit, issued what I think is the very first in the country, which is they created a bidding process in which they registered social enterprise businesses. LA Kitchen was the second registered in the county. And their idea was we want to give priority treatment in any county contracting process to a registered social enterprise because we know they're going to hire foster care, felons, or vets returning for more. They'll have green policies, they'll pay a better wage, and profit will never leave town. They are transitioning from low bid to best value. And that is probably one of the most profound opportunities we face when it comes to opening the door for more business to grow. By the way, if I was running for mayor in any single town, you know what my motto would be? 10,000 new businesses. Give me 4 years or 8 years and we'll open 10,000 new businesses. That is who you should be voting for, besides my friend Dave Smith back there. Second, and I go back to Dave Smith, you know, we as a sector should be helping to elect a generation of David Smiths, people who have run programs like this up at the Presidio, or people who come from the nonprofit sector who want to run for office. You know, so that we start to get a generation of people who, when well-intended legislators pose laws like fee in lieu of taxes for universities all around America where they want them to pay property taxes, even though they are tax exempt by federal statute, they want fees in lieu of taxes. What we want is people who can help them understand that these universities are the reason we have vibrant economies, and they more than make up for what they might not pay in property taxes in the return to investment in the larger community. But it's electing generation. And in my closing thing, and what I hope you'll ponder, and I love this, it's one of my favorite brain teasers. If in 1986 you had invested $1,000 in Microsoft when it went public, you would be about $1.6 million richer today. That was my last calculation. It was done a couple years ago, but it's probably more than that. But again, 1,000, one investment, and it's cost of a stamp, however you got it to them. But conversely, if you had invested that same $1,000 in 1986 in the Grameen Bank, which was Muhammad Yunus's Nobel Peace Prize winning microcredit banking system that has elevated conservatively 100 million people, primarily women, out of poverty, all you would have been eligible for was a one-time tax deduction because you gave to a charity. Now, why not an annual tax deduction with increasing value based on the same rate of return principle as a dividend if a nonprofit organization can show verifiable economic return to the community? Right now in America, the only way you can have a secure old age is with a pension, which doesn't exist, property, if you're lucky, or investment. But we have to tell people to go to stock market. Imagine if they could invest in nonprofits in their own town. Imagine, and this is just an algorithm. This is just helping to understand what does the art gallery, the church, the synagogue, the mosque, the training program. Imagine the power if you could say, look, if you want to give to a traditional charity, fine. You can get your traditional, one-dimensional, one-year tax deduction. But by incentivizing and rewarding innovation in programs like the LA Kitchen, and by the way, not unlike this universe, I am open source. Free Sharely is my motto. But imagine if that kind of information and that kind of opportunity and incentive for nonprofits to leave the traditional charitable model, which is built more on the redemption of the giver, not the liberation of the receiver. Imagine if we could flip that and everybody could rise simultaneously. the person who receives the charity, the organization, or the person that volunteers. But imagine investing in your own town and attaining wealth. That comes from electing a generation of people who aren't burdened by the tyranny of the dot. .com, .org. The future is the middle path, the economic Buddhism that represents social enterprise, and I believe with all my heart that is the future. Thank you all very, very much.